But just the intros.
Welcome to the Open Hearted Podcast. Nice, my man. Kevin is in the house. Hi, everyone. My name's Will Wheeler, and thank you so much for joining the Open Hearted Podcast for another cool episode. Photon John, how are you, my man?
I'm doing pretty great. Just had a week and a half off work, so I'm all relaxed.
Week and a half off work. What were we up to?
Just hanging out with my mom and having a birthday and just chilling.
Nice. Happy birthday. I didn't realize it was your birthday. I remember you saying something about it the other week, but I just completely forgot. Did you end up doing anything?
Yeah, I had a big party with friends. My favorite bar's across the road. Shout out to Hellbound.
Nice. Many people turned up.
Yeah, heaps. Yeah, it was good. I think 40, 50 people or something. So
nice. Yeah, man. I think for myself over the past 2 weeks, I started my coding course and all that type of stuff, which has been my hair is still here. I've been pulling a hell of a lot of it out lately, but
that's what happened to me after the coding course.
yeah, man. You must have done a lot of coding courses, man, from the looks of it, eh? But no, all good. But I tell you what, man, I'm really excited about getting back into today's session and, really talking about some cool stuff and, really having some discussions about areas that are really important, especially around neurodiversity and mental health. So, I suppose for those of you who don't know, this week's episode or this fortnight's episode, we're going to be covering the effects social media has on mental health. So some cool stuff there. But before we get into it, I might just do a few things there, a little bit of housekeeping. As you can probably see up in the top right-hand corner, we've got our social media pages. And if you haven't already done so, we'd really appreciate if you could subscribe, like, and follow our social media pages there, as it's really helpful to get the podcast out there and really encourage people to get amongst it and comment on some of our stuff. If there are some people listening, please feel free to comment. Let us know where you're from. We'd love to hear from you. And please also too reach out and ask us questions during the live chat. I think the best thing I love about doing this podcast is when people are interacting with us and really doing some cool things there. Now, Kevin, besides your birthday, my man, what was something interesting that happened to you over the past 2 weeks, mate?
I actually, so normally when I go on holiday, it's not really a holiday, running the business. I get emails every other day and all that kind of stuff, but I really sort of put my foot down and said, no work, not available. And for the most part, aside from a couple of things that couldn't wait, people left me alone. So I'm feeling very clear-headed and de-stressed. And
nice. I think that might blend in well to what we're actually going to be talking about tonight. Being left alone or getting away from everything. How did you actually feel having that time away and just, I suppose, being you and relaxing?
Just de-stressing. I stayed mostly off social media. I have to do stuff for my band a bit, but yeah, I mostly stayed away from both work and social media, which is probably relevant to the topic tonight.
Yeah.
And just did nothing. But also, saw my family and friends, and just really had a lot of face-to-face time, which was very cool.
Yeah, cool. Man, to tell you the truth, something interesting that happened to me this past fortnight, I really couldn't tell you. I think I've just been way too busy with studying and working on the Open Hearted app that we always talk about every episode and just stuff like that. So it's been really interesting. But you know what? I think before anything, I reckon we should get stuck into this. What do you reckon, Kev?
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously, what we're talking about today is the effect social media has on our mental health, and really what some of the things we've done. So I suppose for myself, I've got quite a large following through LinkedIn, um, and it comes with any sort of social media. It has its ups and downs types of things. I think for me that one of the things that I noticed a lot of, and I think you were talking about how with last week you just took a break from everything. You just told everyone that you were having a break. You didn't want, you just wanted to be left alone. And I think what I've found with, social media, or especially when I'm interacting with people via, say, LinkedIn or other things, is that I feel that like with social media, a lot of the time we're trying to impress people. It feels like, you're always trying to put content out there that you want people to interact with. And then if someone doesn't interact, you're thinking, man, what's wrong with this? What do people not like me? All of that type of stuff. And then also too, I often find that I'm putting content out there about something, and then you've got these keyboard warriors that are coming and attacking you almost about certain things that actually have nothing to do with what you're posting a lot of the time. So it can be frustrating. It can be really bad on your mental health. I think for myself that I was getting to a point where I remember like going and picking up my partner from work, and she'd get in the car and I would just be furious, not at her, obviously, but just comments people would send to me on social media, and I'd just be like, it's got absolutely nothing to do with what I'm doing. And I found that it was actually doing so much to my mental health that I really needed to step back. Kev, what were some of the things that you've sort of found with social media?
Well, I guess it's two-pronged with me, because I've worked in this field for, going on 12 years now. But on a personal note, a couple of years ago, I finally took the dive and left Facebook completely. And because it was just sort of at this point where it was really affecting me. And I was also becoming very unproductive. Someone might post something disagreeing with my views or whatever, because people like to be negative on Facebook. I find myself spending hours just having arguments with these people when I'm supposed to be working, or I could just be doing something more constructive with my time.
Sorry, can I say one thing on that, right? Would you then, when you'd be in those situations, say you'd send something and then you'd write something back, did you ever then feel like you then were constantly like watching to see if they're written back and what they had wrote and everything?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And it's I'm sort of through the work side of things, I understand how the system works, and I came to understand why people were behaving in this way, and the effect that it was having on me and my behavior as well. And we'll get into that in a little bit, but I could just see that it wasn't just that I was having arguments or disagreements with people. It was that I was on a platform that was facilitating making those things worse. So it just got to the point where I was just having massive anxiety constantly, all day, every day. Every time I got a notification, I'd be like, but then, when I wasn't getting notifications, I'd also be anxious. And
Mm.
I was just in this rut, and I was spending so much time on it, and so much worry went into it, that I just knew I had to do something. So, it was hard at first, but like I said, having worked in the field for so long, I understood that our interactions were being manipulated. And not just that, but longer term, again, we'll get into it more later, but longer term, society had been manipulated into these mindsets, into these sort of us and them mindsets through
Mm.
social media. So I finally did it, and I left for 2 years, and it was like getting off a drug.
Yeah.
I'm back now for the first time in 2 years. If it gets bad again, I'll leave again. But it's like coming back to a situation in a much healthier mindset, and being able to see for what it really is. And I'm just not using it in the ways that I did, because I just broke that cycle and broke that habit for a very long time.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? Like, I remember, like, I was going through some really difficult times mentally,
Mm,
and I just had to step back from social media. I was
mm,
just like, I just can't handle this at the moment.
yeah,
I just can't. I can't physically create content at the moment to please people. I even remember one time, right, that so social media isn't just, our Facebook, our Instagram, we're looking at things like Clubhouse as well and all that. And I remember that I used to do this Clubhouse and I was having some really bad times with my depression and all that. And I got to a point where I was like, I can't even sit here for 5 minutes at the moment. I just it's straining me. And then I remember I said to all these people, I said, look, I can't get on there. Then people actually got annoyed and frustrated with me because they really enjoyed waking up on Sunday and listening to this Clubhouse or whatever that was. And it was like, yeah, look, and these people had a go at me. And I tell you what, from that point on, I actually stopped that Clubhouse because I was like, I just can't sit here and deal with it at the moment. I need time for myself. And it was so difficult to get back into it after it because, we had I felt like the people who were listening to me just didn't really respect what I was doing and everything. So it
they
was
were there
just
for
so
their own
frustrating.
reasons.
What's that?
They were there for their own reasons, not for
Well,
you.
yeah, it was, and it was sort of, and I remember speaking to someone they were having a sort of saying the same thing, and they said, "We're doing this for free. It's
Yeah.
not like," and the podcast wasn't even like, like say for example, a lot of our social media and all that, it's actually, it's designed to push people to something bigger and better type of thing, right? So,
Mm,
for example, our podcast here is about building a community around, neurodiversity and mental health. But, we're trying to develop a dating and friendship app that eventually a lot of our listeners will be able to use, give us feedback, and really build that community around that. That's why we've designed this, right? But this wasn't even designed for that. This was just for a bit of fun because it was a new app called Clubhouse where you could talk. It was public speaking through an app,
yeah.
so it was cool and different. So yeah, it was really hard to sort of like take some of, I don't know, just how people act on social media can sometimes be really difficult to comprehend a lot of the time.
Yeah, yeah. And well, personally, being autistic, I loved lockdown, not having to interact with people all the time, and
Yeah, it's
I
funny,
didn't, I
hey.
didn't, I didn't find myself on those sorts of apps very much.
Mm.
But I did find, yeah, I was spending far too much time on Facebook and Instagram, and I remember I was planning my day around content. You know what I mean? Be like,
Wow.
oh, I feel like just going and getting McDonald's or whatever. But then I'd be like, oh no, I need to cook something awesome and make sure I put it on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
And
totally.
it starts controlling your life in all these subtle little ways until you don't realize, until you realize too late that that's where you're at. That it really is. It's negatively affecting your mental health. You're arguing with people because it encourages those arguments due to the fact that it polarizes people, and it can really just control every minute of every day if you don't look after it, and particularly for young people as well. Yes, it's much worse for them.
Totally. Now, I think you explained that really well, but I think we might go on to the next part of what we're going to talk about in the podcast here, because why is this happening? So we often speak about how the algorithms work, and especially addict people to, and you know what, it can be addiction in not regards to just looking on social media all the time, but actually buying things. It could be ads that are coming up to bet on a sports game or whatever that is. It's targeted to grab people in, so this is probably your field here, Kevin. So what do you know about this, and how does it all work?
I mean, privacy is a thing of the past. Some devices are tracking how best to serve ads to you based on how your eyes move around the screen. You know what I mean? Facebook has all kinds of information on you that they claim is private, but it's not really. Google has a lot more. They're starting to become a little better. But all these companies, they just have troves and troves of data on you, and they're listening through the microphone in your phone. I'm sure everyone's had a conversation where they picked up their phone afterwards and immediately got an ad for whatever they were talking about.
Totally.
They know everything about you, every little possible thing that they can. I used to do pay-per-click advertising as part of my business. I started out doing Google ads, got into social media ads and stuff, but I just became increasingly worried as I was creating more of these campaigns and looking after more clients for this sort of stuff, because I just found myself saying things to my clients like, oh, you could target behavioral data that'll tell us what they're going to do 3 weeks from now. I'm like, wait, Facebook knows so much about you that they can predict what you will do 3 weeks from now.
But can I say something, right? It was, what's that Asian comedian? He was off that movie, Rich Asians, or I forget. Yeah, that's it. I was watching something like a special of his on Netflix. A few months ago now, and he was talking about the same thing. He's like, man, they can predict what you want to buy before you even want to buy it, before it's made and all that type of stuff. It was even predict the box you want to have it put in.
Yeah, or not just that, they can convince you that you want to buy something that you don't want to buy.
Yeah,
and
totally.
So basically, years ago, I stopped taking part in paid advertising because it's just not worth it. But with Facebook in particular and social media, Google's getting, like I said, it's getting better and better at giving, and it really does want to serve you the content that you need, but also it wants to make money, so you'll get ads around that. But with Facebook in particular, the way, if I can get a little nerdy for a second, when they first started, the algorithm, I should say, it's actually algorithms. It could potentially be thousands. No one really knows, but they have different teams working on different parts of different engagement metrics. And so, they've got the, I can't remember the name of the team, but I think it's the integrity team who works on weeding out bad content, whatever they consider hate speech or, nudity or whatever. And then you've got a different team over here focusing on engagement and trying to write algorithms that increase engagement. There's all these teams working on different algorithms that are supposed to work together, but some of them conflict with each other. And that's sort of how you end up, because what they want is for you to spend as much time as possible on the app. That's what they're trying to get out of it, because then they can sell more advertising to people. The issue with Facebook is that aside from that one side algorithm or part algorithm that might weed out, illegal content or really bad content, the parts of the algorithm that decide what you engage with more do not differentiate between what is good for you mentally and what is bad for you mentally, right? So, and it's been shown time and time again. There's this whistleblower, Frances Haugen, came out a while back. Some people may know, have heard
Was
of
that
it.
what you sent me today?
Yeah. So basically, she worked at Facebook, and
Yeah.
she managed to smuggle out a whole bunch of internal reports from Facebook that showed that they knew this. So they knew that the algorithm was not differentiating between what might be positive for someone's mental health and what might be negative, and were doing nothing about it because it would cost them money. So they would get less advertising dollars. Because the fact of the matter is, whoever creates a social media platform, and dear God, I wish someone would create an ethical platform, right? They're not weeding out what's good or bad for you, and people tend to react better to negative content. They react more to extreme content. They react more to stuff that makes them angry or sad. Or you think about, for instance, if the algorithm is just designed to show you more of the content that you seem to be clicking on, when you're sad, sometimes you might put on a sad song, or you might watch.
Yeah, true.
When you're on Facebook and you're a bit sad, you might click on a few things that you can relate to because you're feeling sad. But the algorithm then goes, I'm going to show them more of that content, and it doesn't. And so you're showing, and this is what happened to me. I was depressed. I was anxious. It was showing, in particular, I was quite anxious about the state of the world. I had a lot of social anxiety going on. I was clicking on a lot of news stuff about bad stuff that was happening in the world. And that's all I was seeing all day, was just that kind of content. And I just started to get more and more depressed about the state.
I so know what you mean, because I find that certain types of things I'll go look it up, and then it's like afterwards you sort of, and maybe like a day afterwards or something like that you're like, oh my God, I just feel crap. And YouTube's the exact same. Say if you look at something depressing on YouTube's algorithm will then show you more, and then you're like, oh, I might watch that there. And
it's not just that, that becomes addictive. You get addicted, and people. It's hard for people to visualize that it is a drug, but it is a drug. It's giving you endorphins, and not just that, but when you get caught in these little bubbles, right? Particularly if you're viewing political content or that kind of content that has a narrative around society, this is how people have gotten so polarized. Facebook has played such a huge part in, say, the situation in America, for instance, because it has pushed people further and further into opposite corners, just fed them more and more of only things that agree with what they're saying. But it's not just political. It's they've pushed you into a sad corner, and they're just giving you more and more sad content and just beating you down into a hole.
So can I say, right, just in regards to, let's say the Joe Rogan podcast, right? Yeah. Did you hear about all the stuff that was happening with him? I think it was at the beginning of this year that a lot of artists who have their music on the actual Spotify wanted to ban having their music on there because they weren't going to ban his podcast type of thing.
Yeah.
But it was actually good to see, and look, to tell you the truth, I listen to the podcast. I don't agree with everything that he says on his podcast. There's a few things there I don't agree with. Like he's pro guns and all that type of stuff. And probably some of the stuff around coronavirus and that. But, that's his opinion, and that's fine. But it was sort of good to see that they didn't what's the word I'm looking for? Give in to peer pressure and sort of stuck by, like, hey, look, we're actually sticking with this and that type of thing, rather than, I suppose, where some of these other social media sites are doing this sort of like pushing people into, you need to listen to this, you need to be this way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and going back to the anxiety about the state of the world thing, that is sort of symptomatic of that. So I genuinely dislike Joe Rogan.
That's fine.
I used to watch him when I was young.
I know we've got different political views as well.
Yeah. Well, see, this is the thing, right?
Yeah.
This is what I'm getting at. I just strongly dislike Joe Rogan these days. I used to like watching him because I think it's important to hear ideas that you don't necessarily agree with or that might be new to you. And
Yeah.
I think it's important to have friends who don't necessarily agree with you. But social media has just pushed us all into these little silos where just genuine discourse, political discourse, and having a conversation about opposing ideas in a respectful manner has become impossible. In particular, if you look at politics, like neither party will work with each other on anything. Like it's so difficult to get them to work together. But growing up in the 90s, I remember seeing heaps of stuff, where they stopped focusing on what they weren't focusing on what they disagreed on. That they knew they disagreed on certain things, but they got together and, okay, what can we achieve? What can we do? What do we agree on? Where is the common ground? And then for the other ideas, let's debate them, and we'll see where it comes out. But that's just gone now. And I don't think enough people realize that a lot of the blame for that lays squarely at the feet of social media.
Crazy. Before we go on to the next one, does anyone have any questions they'd like to ask us or anything like that? Make sure if you're enjoying what you're doing or you want to share something, please comment in the comment section on whichever social media you're listening on. And look, we'd be more than happy to bring that up in the show if that's something you want to share. But anyway, so out of that, Kevin, what effects do you think that has on our mental health, especially as neurodistinct people?
I think we were speaking earlier about how it can feed into I don't want to say negative impacts of neurodiversity because we're not negative, we're just different. But for someone who has ADHD, for instance, TikTok is pure internet crack. It's like the worst part of the internet just distilled down into these tiny little videos, and someone with ADHD might that might just keep them occupied for hours, and keep their brain all over the place and not help them focus. For myself, being autistic, when I keep getting shown the same kind of content, even in a positive sense, right? I mean, if I just keep seeing content about the X-Men, who I've been reading since I was 6 years old, I won't get off. I won't work. I won't sleep. I'll just sit there just reading everything that I can find.
Totally.
So, I think it's probably a conversation that's not even being had really, which is not just how it affects the average person, which is important, but how it can that impact can be magnified with neurodiverse people. I think I have a young sister who grew up on social media using iPads from the age of 2 or whatever, and it really just occupies her brain a lot. Because she grew up on it, B, she's neurodiverse, but bless her, because we had some little conversations about it, and she really saw it for herself as well, that she needed to just control that a bit more and step away a little, that it wasn't very good for her. Have you ever seen what's it called? There's a documentary on Netflix about this, about the negative impacts of social media. Bear with me one sec.
No, I probably have. But what's it called?
The Social Dilemma.
It's a Social Dilemma.
Yeah, it's a little over dramatized, but it's on the right path. It really sort of speaks to particularly how young women, in particular, how negatively young teen women can be affected with their mental health by this. By the way, and men as well are being radicalized. Young men are being radicalized through this sort of stuff because they just
Well, it's actually interesting you say that, because let's say, we're obviously trying to develop a dating and friendship app down the track there and that.
Mm.
And, especially speaking about young people and all that. And I think, the effects that social media has on those people. I even know from past experience of being on dating apps and all that, it can be really, what's the word I'm looking for? Like deflating, if that's the correct word. Um, because you don't feel like it's more based on how many likes you're getting, or how many friends you have, or how many people interact with your posts, for example. Same with dating apps, it's like how many matches you're getting, or people who are interacting with you, or even how people treat you on those apps as well. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? So there's so many, and I often think to myself, because obviously, let's see, so I finished high school in 2000, and I think Facebook really sort of came out around 2008. I think it was roughly.
Launched 2000, late 2007. Yeah, you're about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that was a new thing. You would sort of be like, put up a picture and be like, "Hey, this is
Back then,
this is
you
cool."
throw a sheep at someone, decide if you're a pirate or a ninja.
Yeah. So it was quite interesting. It's like, oh, cool, I can connect with this person. Oh my god, I'm chatting with someone on the other side of the world. Um, so little things like that. But I often think to myself, man, I wonder what it would have been like back in school, having
Mm.
access to all that information.
Well, bullying is for sure enabled by all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, and it can bring out the worst of people because you're not actually, you're not sitting there having a real conversation with a person face to face. I
Yeah.
mean, you see it in your own life, but there's been many studies done on this. I mean, when you're actually sitting face to face with someone, everyone is less likely to say something awful to each other, um,
Yeah.
especially bully each other. I think there's something to be said for I mean, do not condone violence, but it's allowed people to say whatever they want to anyone they want without any risk of being punched in the face. You know what I mean? Like, there's
Totally.
no
And
real world. There's seemingly no real world consequences
mm,
until that kid that's being bullied hurts themselves or someone else.
and you know what I think, right? And this is what I've found is that, especially through social media, people that there's been people who I've met in person before,
Mm.
and I've thought, oh gee, this person's really lovely and all that, but then get them on social media or something, and it's like a completely different person.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, like, one time there was this guy, I had a chat with him and all that. And then the next thing, I posted something up, and I didn't even know anything about it, right? So I'll give you the example, right? So, I'm ADHD and dyslexic, right? So I'm still learning a lot about the autism community and all that. I'm doing a lot of work around neurodiversity, but you know, as far as I know, I'm not autistic. So, I'm learning as much as I can. And I remember I made this like a meme type of thing for social media, and it was a picture of people uh, putting like working together as a team, and then they were finishing a puzzle or something. Right now, it had, honestly, my what I was trying to create was a motivational meme about people working together to fix a problem, right? Or not even, or just to work together as a team, right?
Yeah.
Then that same person annihilated me on social media, saying, puzzle pieces, that means we need to be put back together. And I'm like, what the hell? For one, I had no idea that the puzzle pieces connection to autism was frowned upon. And it was like, holy crap, like I didn't know, but I would have thought, because I knew that guy and I met that guy, that maybe a better way to approach something would have been a private DM to say, hey, Will, what did you mean by that post there? Did you know this does that? And I could have explained that, hey, look, that's not what I actually meant. But what it did, it actually opened up this other sort of gateway for other people to then attack me for something that had nothing to do with what that was actually about. Do you know what I mean?
It's mob justice. It's digital mob justice now. It's
totally.
Yeah, and it's really awful. As an autistic person, and I think someone with ADHD might have a similar problem. When social media allows you to just express every little brain fart that you have instantly, sometimes people are going to say things without thinking, and again, being autistic, I particularly have a problem sometimes understanding when something is appropriate to say or not, or do or not. And or I just word myself very badly or very poorly, and I learn these things as life goes on, and I create a memory bank of, okay, that's not the kind of thing to say, that is, but it's not a thing I instinctually understand. So in terms of how it affects on mental health purely for neurodistinct people, is I don't have the opportunity to explain to everyone. I'm not going to put a disclaimer on every Facebook post that I make. Oh, by the way, so just in case this offends you, or just in case I've taken this wrong or whatever, as a kid, I experienced a lot of bullying because I didn't know how to behave properly or what to say properly, and and things that would seem really obvious to everyone else. People have real trouble wrapping their heads around the idea that some things that seem so obvious to them just don't occur to me. They just don't. That part of my brain doesn't work. And I would get bullied a lot because I was weird or said the wrong thing or whatever. And you put that on social media, you apply that to social media, and then you add the increased intensity of people who are wannabe bullies online. And it can get pretty bad,
Yeah, no, I totally know it is what, like you're saying, because I remember, like, especially when I was in school, in high school and primary school, I would say things and then people would be like, oh, shut up, Will. You know what I mean? Like, put me down. And I'd sit there thinking, what have I said? And I'm only realizing now that maybe because of who I am and some of the things I am, that was why I was coming across that way, and people, would take it a different way, and I was made to look like the fool. And I do think to myself, damn, man, I wonder what would have happened if I had have had social media back in those days, and how that would have come off, or because I remember back in those days I could hardly spell, so I would have,
Oh, I was going to say, I don't know about you, but for me, the further you go back in my life, the weirder I was, because it took me a really long time, and I've definitely had some developmental disability in my life. Like, I've progressed into adulthood a lot more slowly, and
I matured a lot slower.
Yeah, and I've come to grasp some seemingly basic things to everyone else, but it took me a long time to get to them. So the further you go back, for me, the younger I was, the weirder I was, I would have hated to have had social media as a. I feel for young ADHD kids or autistic kids now who are growing up in the social media age, because, man, that would have destroyed me, I think.
Yeah, and we just hear so much stuff about this now. So crazy. We might move on. So your next one was how we know this, or I try to shorten a lot of them a lot of the time. So I'm not 100% sure what you meant by that one. Yeah, how we know this.
Well, how do we know that, it has these impacts. How do we know that this is how the algorithms work? So famously, Google and Facebook and everyone else keep their algorithms very secret. You can test things though, and you can look at the results in society. And in particular, that Frances Haugen, for anyone who doesn't know, look her up. She's a whistleblower who worked for Facebook. She smuggled out endless reports. So these were internal reports on research done by Facebook on Facebook, and the results of that research were this is bad for people. But then they basically measured that against dollars and decided they weren't going to do anything about it. So that's how we know that, for instance, about Facebook. But
sorry to cut you off there, but when Facebook had that big inquiry a few years ago now, was that type of what's that?
Cambridge Analytica?
Yeah, was that type of information like released?
To an extent. So basically, for anyone who doesn't know, Cambridge Analytica was it sort of came out that these sort of far right political groups had come to buy some internal Facebook data that Facebook doesn't release, but somehow they came across it, and they were using that to influence elections and people on Facebook, and to great effect. That had a big effect on that election, it sort of showed the depth of information that Facebook has on people and how easily with that data you can manipulate people into doing what you want them to do. So yes, that we heard little bits about the algorithms. Basically, Facebook and Google are fighting to keep them secret because they're saying, well, if they got released, it would allow people to game the system, right? We need to do it in the interest of fair competition, because if the algorithm came out, businesses could rank well that wouldn't otherwise and shouldn't, or people could do all this horrible stuff with it, and it's crap. There are plenty of open source platforms and software and all that kind of stuff all over the world. It doesn't kill competition. It's fine. It just creates a more even playing field, right? I work in SEO, so I don't take part in paid marketing, but I help people understand, to the best of our knowledge, how the algorithm works and what you need to do to your website to try and rank well. And with SEO, the organic listings, the non-paid clicks, you really got to just basically earn Google's trust, right? However, if everyone knew the rules, everyone's guessing. If everyone knew the rules, everyone could. The playing field would be leveled, basically. So anyway, to answer your question, no. In Europe, they're trying very hard to get Google in particular to release their algorithm so that everyone can know how it works, because this lack of oversight is how you get these problems with Facebook. Like, no, we need to keep our algorithm private. It's like, well, okay, but your algorithm is harming people and hurting society. We don't think you need to keep it private. We think that we should. But I think the reasons a lot of them don't want the algorithm public is because the governments in particular will be able to see how obvious it is that they're harming people, and that they knew that they were harming people, and that
But do you reckon when those people first started like these social media pages that was what they had in mind?
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's just developed over time, right?
There's this guy, and this can lead into the next point, the importance of unplugging. There's this guy, Jaron Lanier, and he's very interesting character. He was one of the founders of virtual reality, big hippie with giant dreadlocks, but super smart guy, one of the earliest Silicon Valley people. And he wrote a book called 10 Reasons to Delete All of Your Social Media Right Now. Go check out that book. He doesn't necessarily say that you have to delete everything, but he does talk about the importance of unplugging and just getting rid of the stuff that is important. You don't need every social media app. You don't need to spend all your time on it. But he gets a little into how these people know that they're bad for mental health. And if you care about mental health and if you care about your own mental health, you really should take a deeper look at how these platforms are manipulating you, and how Facebook in particular knows that it's bad for mental health and is choosing to do nothing about it.
Man, sorry. In saying that, should we talk about the importance of unplugging now?
Well, I know you do this a bit. I've already said, I completely disconnected from Facebook for 2 years, and I've just come back to it now. And it's like I can't imagine being in the mindset that I was in when I had to quit. It's like it is like getting off drugs. I'm just come back. And my mental health is better.
Did you find that like those first couple of days were incredibly difficult?
The first few months were really
because it's like a drug, it's like coming off something.
Yeah, and being a musician, right? And with everyone I know, everything just down to their personal birthdays or a weekend get together, you kind of forgot I existed,
Yeah. So you weren't like people you wouldn't communicate with people?
No, I would, but I wasn't getting invited to events, so I didn't know what was going on socially in my life because the events part of Facebook is so ingrained in everyone's life now. I'll just be open about it. I have quit hard drugs in my life when I was much younger, and it's similar to that in that at first it's going to be really difficult, and you might even get a bit down because again, it's a drug. It really is a drug. You might not physically put it into your body, but the effects are the same. It's a drug that you get in through your eyes, and it gives you endorphins, and it makes you feel good for a while, and then it makes you feel bad. And it was tough, but getting off it for that long completely changed my brain, just the way I think. I don't feel the need to engage with political shit all the time online or at all. I see it now from the outside, being not addicted, and go, oh yeah, that's a conversation I just don't care to get involved in.
But can I say, right? Like what I really started to find was that I was creating content not for I wasn't sharing content for me. I was more trying to please the people who were following me. Do you know what I mean? And it's almost like, like the biggest thing I've sort of found in business and especially in life as well is that you need to be yourself. When you're not yourself, you can't work at your best. You can't. If like I'm a pretty friendly guy, and if I'm hanging around people who abuse people all the time, and those aren't the type of people I need to be around, right? So that's what I was finding on social media was that I was trying to create content that wasn't for me. It was more trying how many likes can I get, how many people can I get to create conversation, right? And it became a real problem, and I was just like, now I just share what I want to share. And if people don't like, and look, to tell you the truth, I'm not even getting that many likes on a lot of my posts and all that. But you know what? What I think is that's important. If people only want to like my stuff because I say, yay, neurodiversity, we rock, right? Which yeah, we do, but that's not what I want to post. I want to post about stuff that means something to me. Right. Yeah. And if people don't like that, that's fine. Right. But that's what it means to me.
Yeah. Well, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've told me that you do take time to unplug here and there.
Yeah, totally. Well, yeah, look, don't get me wrong. I still, I'll wake up and look at social media. But for example, like now, back in the day, right, I'd be like, all right, let's post something. And then I'd be on there like nearly every 15 minutes looking for how many people had liked it. Oh, gee, not many people have liked it. Oh, gee, this is bad. Oh, my God. Or someone's commented, oh, what a rude bastard. Oh, yeah, and I used to think that because now, let's say someone commented something negative on one of my posts, right? I used to think it was unprofessional if I deleted that.
Yeah.
Now, if there's something that comes up, and look, I don't care if it's something that's got nothing to do with what I've posted, I am going to delete your post, your comment, because it's got absolutely nothing to, like, for example, I shared something about Gary V or Gary Vanderchuck or whatever his name is, right? And he was talking something about, it was a little like Instagram, oh not Instagram, bloody Twitter post type of thing, right? And I took a picture and I turned it into a meme and all that type of stuff. I was like, and he was talking something about how, like, you know, we need to design education to more suit the learner and all that. I was like, yeah, man, this guy's onto it, you know. And I was like, yeah, I really like this guy because, you know, he gets it. The guy's ADHD as well, so, you know, that's cool. But the thing was that one person came through and was like, yeah, no, I don't like that guy because, you know, I don't like this. I think he's fake and blah 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 blah. And it's like, that's fine, but what's that got to do with the post? I couldn't care less what you think about the guy. The post is about kids learning and everything. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but see, this is where social media has taken people, right?
Yeah.
It's this purest form of mind, right? I know some people who, you know, believe things politically that I don't agree with, but they're fantastic parents, and I admire who they are as parents. We also both agree on other things completely, right? I have some friends I struggle with them sometimes and the things that come out of their mouth, but at the end of the day, don't worry, Will, that's not you.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, we have other things that we agree on very much, and it doesn't stop me from seeing that although they hold different ideas, they are still good people. And on the importance of unplugging, when I got off Facebook, I was forced. I kept Messenger, right? I just kept Messenger, and Instagram because I just personally I don't. I know that other people do, but I don't get a lot of political arguments and shit on there. I post photos. It's like it's like, you know, it's like the Musket version of social media. It takes a lot of time to consider before you post or shoot. You know.
Yeah, totally.
A photo, you have to think about what you want, all that kind of stuff. Whereas Facebook is just like brain fart on the page.
Yeah, totally.
No, but Messenger. So I wanted to stay in touch with my friends, and I found, you know, some of my good friends would start messaging me, and if I wanted to get in touch with other people, I would have to start. And so I started to actually have conversations with my friends. We weren't just being like, "Oh, what do you mean we haven't been in touch? I liked 3 of your posts last week." You know what I mean? I was having real world conversations, and then I was getting out of the house and seeing more and more and more that the world is not this black and white place, and people are complex beings, and you can have 20 reasons to like a person on social media, but that one reason that you don't like them, you know, that one thing that you disagree with on social media, it's like, nah, you know, I won't say that. Get stuffed. You know what I mean? There's no
totally.
more nuance. There's no more seeing people as whole pictures. But unplugging, getting back out in the real world and actually having real conversations and having to have real conversations with my friends and text them regularly and call. I even started calling people. I hate the phone, but I actually started calling my friends and stuff. And yeah, unplugging forced me back into the real world. And after 2 years, it just rewired my brain back to where it should be.
Could you say that could, like, you know, I just feel that sometimes that, you know, people just don't seem to connect as much as we used to, like before social media. Pardon me. Before social media, like be like, hey, let's catch up, you know, because you'd have a coffee and you talk about what's going on. But now you're sort of like, you already know what's going on about someone because you see their life through social media. So it's like, oh, I don't really need to see them because I see their posts up all the time.
I mean, good point, but that's not their life. That's
Yeah,
their
yeah, totally.
that's their best version of themselves that they're putting forward on social media. I got so much closer to so many of my friends getting rid of Facebook. 'Cause I was seeing them in real life and hearing the real story and the things that they wouldn't want to put on social media. And and a lot of the people you think are really confident and doing super well on there, not necessarily true.
Yeah, and you know what? That's so interesting because I think with social media as well, especially with like Instagram, for example, I see so many people with like thousands, like 20,000 or 100,000 or 80,000 followers or something, and
Mm,
all these people are gravitating to this person and they're sharing information or whatever about that. And sometimes that information isn't even correct. And it's like, oh my God, these people are believing stuff from a fake news. Do you
yeah.
know what I mean? Almost, because it's and you know
Well,
what? There's actually
and
sorry,
to
sorry.
reflect, to
Yeah.
reflect what social media has done to people, the simple fact that you just used that term will turn some people off because they're going to
Mm,
make so many assumptions about you
mm.
because orange dickhead used that
Yeah,
word.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, totally.
And none of those assumptions I know that none of those assumptions are true.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
People just, yeah, they're being fed.
But I'll give you a really good example, right? So for example, say like certain groups on social media, right? I remember like join and to tell you the truth, I've had to like I don't follow a lot of groups and that on certain social media pages for this reason, right? You get and it's sort of a little bit like how you're talking about the mob like
Mm,
thing type of thing happening. Um, you'll like I remember I shared something from a really well-known person within the neurodiversity field who works with a lot of really well-respected doctors and stuff like that. I shared something of hers on this page here, and then it was amazing how many attacks I was starting to get. Oh no, don't listen to this person, blah 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 blah, this and that, and blah 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 blah. And I was just thinking, oh my god, these people are just, people who have just learned all their information from other people on social media. They're not actually in. They have no understanding of the medical research behind some stuff, and they're potentially sharing information that could be harmful for people who don't think anything different.
and I really worry for younger people who have no other frame of reference. Like
Yeah,
that's
true.
their reality. That's what they grew up on. They don't understand life outside the internet. um, and not to denigrate them all at all.
Mm,
Young
mm,
people are awesome, and I think that they will save the planet where us older folks failed to. But
mm, mm,
they grew up on this. They grew up in this
mm.
environment. No wonder so many young people. There's epidemic proportions of anxiety and social anxiety and depression in young people at the moment, and
Mm,
I have no doubt that social media plays a huge role in that. But
totally,
I
totally.
want to segue into the next part, unless you had more on
No,
unplugging.
no, no. I did have something, but I completely had a mind blank,
Yeah.
and I can't remember what I was going to say about it. But I think it was similar across the lines of just sharing information and then
Mm.
people just bombarding it down. So, oh no, that's right. I remember one time someone had shared something up on, I think it might have been a Facebook page or something like that about okay, so it was talking about special ed and all that type of stuff, and I just commented I didn't. I wasn't actually rude or anything. I just said, yeah, I really struggled having to go to social ed, and I didn't like the name of it because it implied that like I was special. Oh no, it was called special ed. Yeah, that's right, and and I said it replied that I was special and I felt like I was being bullied and I was looked down upon and all that. Then all these like people were coming at me going, oh, yeah, There's nothing wrong with calling it that. My son doesn't care if it's called that or not. And I'm like, that's not what I'm getting at. I'm just saying my experience was this. And it felt like I was then getting attacked. And then the person who ran the page then came in and started attacking me and all of this stuff. And I was just like, oh my God. And then they were like tagging people in that could then come and attack me to try and like change my view.
Yeah. That is bullying. That is bullying.
Totally.
What it is, everyone's in their bloody silos.
Yeah, totally.
And they get jarred when someone suggests that they might have had a different experience or have a different idea. Then, even though you're in your own individual silo, no matter how extreme or wrong your idea is, you can find a group of people online who agree with you, and you can take them into posts so they all come in and go, see, we're all right because there's more of us than there is of you, and it's just not how it works.
You know what the funny thing about it was? I always used to try and use that stuff as content, not as content to go post, but I was like, I'm actually going to write a blog about my negative. I didn't like put the name of the thing or anything, but I shared my experience, and I ended up getting like a few thousand people like reading the blog and all that. So it was good to create like a blog and all that, but it was bullying. It was bullying at its finest, you know?
Well, especially when you're tagging people in.
Yeah, totally. And I hate to say this, but sometimes parents can be the worst at this stuff.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And it's like, do not, you know, it's like, for example, sometimes I've had, you know, people who aren't even neurodistinct themselves attack me because maybe their kids are neurodistinct about, you know, what I'm saying is wrong or whatever. It's like, well, stuff you haven't lived this. Maybe your son does, but this is a completely different experience.
Yeah, people are just unable. People are just less and less able to have to understand that their experience isn't necessarily everyone else's experience.
Exactly.
And that's because the algorithm pushes you into this little bubble where you're just fed more and more stuff that agrees with you. You know.
Exactly.
Mental health, which is a good sort of ending point, I guess. If we're the good that it can still do. It's hard after all that.
Yeah, totally. I think that, you know, we have spoken about some you know, some negative things about, and I think with this podcast today, you know, it has been talking about the effects that it has on our mental health and all this, but you know, the good that social media can still do. What's some of the good things you've sort of experienced, Kev?
Especially for, say, my business or being a musician, it's been become increasingly easy to get, you know, exposure and get stuff out there. On a personal level, I do talk to, and I think it's why phone companies stopped charging for texts in Australia, because I think they were losing a lot of business when everyone could just have Facebook Messenger and just message each other for free all the time. You know what I mean? I do find that I connect a lot more often with my friends and have personal conversations here and there. And you know, that was all the stuff that was meant to be positive about it. And you know, people could connect from vast distances. I do have friends that I've never met on the other side of the planet.
Same.
Some of them very long-standing friends who I trust with, you know, personal information and. You know,
can I say, like, sorry, have you ever?
Sorry, you go.
Sorry, have you ever actually met up with like people that you've met through social media only, and then met them in real life? Have you ever done that before?
A little, yeah.
Man, I have. You know what what's that? Sorry.
You go.
Okay. The funniest thing about it is, it's like you already know each other.
Well, you do, you know.
Do you know what I mean? It's the weirdest thing, man.
I don't want to, with everything negative we've said, act like social media can't connect people and that you can't get to know.
No, not at all. Yeah, totally.
When you're talking about profiles and public-facing stuff, everyone's putting their best foot forward, you know.
Mm.
Some people I know are really honest. You know, and I admire the people I see who are like that, who really put their real self forward. But it can really connect people, and you know, I don't think social media is a very good platform for information gathering.
Because you don't know if it's wrong or right.
Well, you know, I mean, something we probably didn't get into enough earlier was that a lot of those internal reviews that Facebook had done showed that misinformation spreads on there faster than real news.
Interesting.
So, you know, but I think in terms of connection and the potential there, it's got even more potential than we've even seen yet, and I think it could be great for that.
Yeah, look, I think that there's definitely a lot of great things that social media has probably done and still does do. Connection is definitely good, and I think especially through the lockdown, especially we were able to really utilize that. You know, we've been able, you know, especially with. It's really interesting. I do a lot of training with people, and I show them like stuff with new technology that's coming into certain workplaces, and people sit there and go, "Oh, these robots are going to take our jobs," and you know what I mean. I always hear it all the time, and it's like, yeah, well, that's just the way it is. These types of that's innovation, you know. But social media, you know, it's a tool. You know, it's a tool that we're able to utilize to potentially create more work for us, create more jobs for us. Um, and you know, for example, you could create a business on Facebook and use that solely as your thing. I'd hate to say it, but things like OnlyFans, you know what I mean? OnlyFans. What's
I
that?
don't hate to say it. I have so many friends who, you know, and all respect to sex workers, it's real work.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
I have so many friends who got through the pandemic that way. They survived, you know. So
Yeah,
yeah,
totally. You know,
yeah,
and
you said it's cool. It's like, you know, you're exactly right. The problem is a hammer can be used to build a house or crack a kneecap. So it's about using it right.
yeah, that's it. That's it. And I think like, you know, we're starting to find that if you can utilize social media in the right way, you can potentially make a lot of money off it if done correctly. And it's like anything. And I think as well, you know, I've gotten to a point now, and don't get me wrong, I always used to be that person who would see something I didn't agree with and comment back. But I've learned now that it's easier to just go, you know what, if that's what that person wants to write, that's fine with me. I'm going to step back. And because I know the effects that it has on people. So, you know, I think being able to know when to step back, unplug regularly is probably a good thing. And, you know,
Just one day a week.
yeah, totally. And also too, just being able to, you know, just you know, we live our own lives. Living your own life through social media as well. So if someone says something that you don't agree with, fine, that's fine with me. You know what I mean? But you know, just do your own thing within moderation, of course. Don't be putting you know really bad stuff up or anything like that. But yeah, look, I think you know if you can look at it in that type of way, some really great things can happen with social media.
Yeah, I mean, I've met partners through there. I've met lifelong friends through there. I've met um, uh, uh, family that I've never known through there. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, totally.
yeah.
But you know what, right? Sorry, you go.
I know how to game the system too. So a little hack for everyone: if you're feeling like you're getting too much negative content on social media, go find content that's positive on social media and like a bunch of it. Go like some pages because you'll game the algorithm. I know how to do this. My Instagram is now nothing but dogs and music. Because that's all I do online.
Do you know what? I actually went through a cull on the Open Hearted Instagram page, and because I was just looking through, and I'm like, why do we have all this stuff? And I just culled all these things, and I actually left most of it, the people that we follow, of people we actually know. So I was like, and now I'm going to start building up on content that maybe we like, rather than just going, oh yeah, that's cool, this person follows this. Because what I used to find was, say if someone would follow other ADHD people's posts, what they would share had nothing what I was into. So all this crap was just up on our pages a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And actually, in saying that, I might actually give a plug and sort of say, if you are listening, please subscribe, like, and follow to our social media pages. And please, if you're listening to us on YouTube, make sure you hit the notification button so you never miss out on one of our awesome podcasts here. Kevin, man, this was an awesome chat today. Before we finish up here, does anyone have any questions you'd like to shoot through to us? We've got a fair few people listening. Not many people have commented today.
No. That's a little out of the ordinary. I guess we have been talking at them a lot more.
That's okay. That's all good.
I probably would also just throw in that, in the coming weeks, we're probably going to start having some guests on every now and then.
Totally. And that's the thing. If you are listening and, you do have an interesting topic you might want to put to us, please feel free to reach out to us through our social media pages. I know probably in the next couple of weeks and months, we're probably going to be talking about neurodiversity in the arts, and how people have maybe had to adapt in that type of environment. I think a big thing that I was speaking to you about it earlier, Kevin, about what was it? A lot of people think that like autistic people can't get up in front of people, an audience or something like that, or public speak, which is completely wrong. For
anyone who doesn't know, I'm the singer in a band.
Do you want to plug your band?
I really don't like. Yeah, I might as well. Yeah, the band's called Gutter Fire.
Where can they find you, mate?
Places online. We're on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. But I generally don't love social situations full of people that I don't know. But I can get up on stage in front of 500 people and have a ball. And there are many complicated reasons. Maybe we can go into that when we eventually do the arts podcast. But
can I say in regards to that, I remember when I first was like in bands and all that type of stuff, when you'd play a gig, especially at night, you've got all the lights on you and all that, and you can't see anyone anyway. So I used to find that was like a really cool thing, because like it was like you felt like you were just on this stage on your own anyway.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Interesting. So yeah, heaps of cool stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks and months. So yeah, please reach out if you've got any questions, or you'd like to share something on the podcast, or you'd like to hear more about our app we're developing. We would love to hear from you. Besides that, mate, I don't have anything else to say. What about yourself?
No, I'm pretty good. Thank you for another awesome chat.
Always, my man. So please feel free to like this episode or anything else there. And thank you so much for listening to the Open Hearted app. And please follow us and like all of our pages. And please come back next time and listen to what we have to say. Enjoy your evening. Thanks for listening.